After working overtime and returning home, my husband suddenly told me he had fallen in love with someone else. I just want a divorce so I can be with her. Even if I have to leave with nothing, I stared at the divorce papers on the table. Suddenly, I felt relieved. Fine, I agree. It's human nature to abandon the old for the new. I'm no different. Chapter 1. Joseph looked at me in astonishment. You agreed just like that? I let out a cold laugh. My tone was full of uncontrollable mockery. Otherwise? Oh, you think I should lose my mind, questioning you about who that woman is, right? And maybe I should cry and beg you not to leave, beg you not to divorce me, is that it? You're willing to walk away with nothing just to divorce me, yet on the other hand, you expect me to beg you to stay. So do you want a divorce or not? Are the two halves of your brain fighting each other? Joseph was speechless. I ignored him, picked up the divorce papers and flipped through them carefully. After confirming there was no issue, I reached for my bag to take out a pen. Joseph dragged me in so hastily earlier that I hadn't even hung my bag behind the door. After working late and coming home, I didn't even get one bite of hot food. He didn't even ask why I came home so late. He went straight to telling me he wanted a divorce. This kind of cold, lifeless marriage, I've had enough of it. I pulled a fountain pen from my bag. Decisively signed both copies of the divorce agreement. After capping the pen, I stared at the heavily faded fountain pen in my hand. It was a gift Joseph bought for me with half a month of his part-time wages on our first anniversary. I've used it for almost 20 years. It's worn and shabby. It's time to replace it. I threw the pen into the trash. Let's get the paperwork done tomorrow morning. Then I walked away without looking back. Chapter 2. I went to my daughter Renee's room. She had her back to me, hiding under the blanket. I walked over and sat by the bed. Don't pretend to be asleep. I know you saw everything. After a long moment, she finally turned around and sat up, her eyes red. Mom, Dad doesn't want us anymore, right? I sighed inwardly. Having lived nearly 40 years, I've witnessed countless separations between life and death, so accepting a breakup comes easily to me. But Renee is only 12. To her, her parents are her whole world. After Joseph and I separate, no matter who she stays with, half of her world will collapse. But she is also part of this family. She deserves to know everything happening under this roof. So I told her honestly, yes. Your dad asked for a divorce and I agreed. But we're only not going to be husband and wife anymore. We will always be the parents who love you most. Renee looked at me. Her tears burst forth like a broken dam. Mom, I'm sorry. She covered her face. Tears seeped through her fingers. I was completely confused. Shouldn't I be the one apologizing? I quickly removed her hands from her face. Gently wiped her tears. What's wrong? Why are you suddenly apologizing to me? Renee sobbed uncontrollably, her shoulders shaking. Last time, when Dad came to pick me up from school, he brought a pretty lady with him. Dad said she was his secretary, but when he was driving, she kept leaning on him and her hand was on his thigh. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to hide it from you. I just didn't know how to tell you. I gripped the bedsheet tightly. My gaze grew colder and colder. How dare Joseph? He even flaunted it in front of Renee. I let out a heavy breath. Held her in my arms with heartache. Renee, this isn't your fault. Anyone faced with something like this would hesitate. If it were me, I'd feel the same. Renee pulled away slightly. Her tear-filled eyes looked pitifully at me. Mom, do you still want me? I paused. Then gently stroked the back of her head. Smiling softly, I replied, it should be me asking you, are you willing to stay with me? Renee sniffled and nodded hard. I squeezed her little cheeks lightly. All right. You have school tomorrow. Go to sleep early. She lay down obediently. After comforting her until she fell asleep, I turned off the light and left the room. Chapter 3. The next day, Joseph and I completed the divorce procedures. Joseph also began packing his things, preparing to move out. Neither Renee nor I asked whether he needed a hand. We treated each other as if we were invisible. But that night, when I came home from work, Joseph called out to me. Your mom called me today. My heart suddenly tightened. She said Quinn lost his job and wants me to help him, let him come work at my company. That's not something difficult for me, so I agreed. But I thought I should still let you know. The moment he finished speaking, I already had my phone out, dialing my mom. I even turned on the speaker. She picked up quickly. Mom, about Quinn's job, tell him to sort it out himself. Joseph and I are divorced. Don't ask him for anything again. Divorced? When? Why did you divorce, Rosie, you? I knew exactly what she was going to say. Nothing more than telling me not to divorce. After all, she always liked Joseph, her son-in-law, more than she liked me. So I cut her off immediately. Joseph had someone else outside. We're divorced now. We have nothing to do with each other. Do you understand? There was a brief silence on the other end. I used the chance to hang up. Only then did I notice Joseph's face flushing red. Probably didn't expect me to tell my mom so bluntly. My phone vibrated. Mom was calling back. I hung up, stood and walked away. If there was going to be a fight, I wasn't about to have it in front of Joseph. But he grabbed my wrist. Rosie, it's just a job for Quinn. It's a small matter. You didn't have to refuse me and fight with your mom. I didn't have a good relationship with my mom and I hated arguing with her. But I hated owing Joseph anything even more. Before, he was my husband, part of my family. Now we're divorced. In my eyes, he's nothing more than my child's father. Other than that, he's no different from a stranger. I yanked my hand from his grip. I'll handle this myself. You don't need to get involved. He blocked my way. His voice carried confusion, and even a trace of embarrassment turning into anger. You'd rather fight with your mom than accept my help? Why? I sighed. Then suddenly let out a faint laugh. Do you need me to remind you that we're divorced? Joseph's face went deathly pale. Yes, we're divorced, but we were together for 20 years. Even if we can't be husband and wife, we can still be friends, can't we? I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. Being friends with your ex-wife, did you ask that girl you're seeing what she thinks about it? Joseph's pale expression shattered inch by inch. He froze in place. Chapter 4. My phone was still ringing. I hurried out to answer it, ignoring Joseph and walked toward the stairwell. The moment I picked up, my mom's shrill voice almost pierced my eardrum. Rosie, tell me clearly, did you really divorce Joseph? Yes. We're divorced. My mom sounded so anxious her voice cracked. How could you divorce him? He's the owner of a big company now. You're almost 40, where are you going to find another man with such good conditions? And besides, what man doesn't fool around outside? Just endure it and it'll pass. Look at me, I endured it too, didn't I? Listen to me, don't get divorced. Once you divorce, you'll have nothing. For a moment, I suddenly felt like crying. That unfaithful father of mine seemed to be standing right in front of me again, coldly watching my mom begging him to stay. I once persuaded my mom to divorce. But she hadn't worked since getting married. If she left, she couldn't even support herself, let alone raise my brother and me. So even if she had to beg my father for money like a beggar, she would never divorce him and let the other woman benefit. She spent her life grinding away in that rotten marriage until the day my father died. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. So I'm supposed to be like you, endure it for a lifetime? Silence fell on the other end. When she spoke again, her tone was impatient. What else can you do if you don't endure? Life is all about enduring. And now that you've divorced Joseph, what about your brother? I knew it. In the end, it was all about Quinn. After all, Joseph, the son-in-law she was so proud of, had helped Quinn out more than once. How could she bear to let go of that? Then let Quinn go live with Joseph. Since I'm divorced now, the position of wife of the household is empty, he can go compete for it. I had no energy to listen to her nagging. Even less patience to argue. So I cut her off directly, I'm not you. I don't have to endure. Even if I'm divorced, I can support myself and I can support my child. I'm informing you about the divorce, not discussing it with you. And it won't affect the 2,000 yuan I send you every month. What you spend that little money on is up to you. There won't be more anyway. I hung up, leaned against the wall and exhaled sharply. But tears still fell. I wiped them away before going back inside. That's how adulthood works. Even when you cry, you have to do it secretly. Chapter 5. My mom called me several more times afterward. Between the lines, it was all about wanting me to find a job for Quinn. But he's a grown man with perfectly good hands and feet. There's no reason he can't survive on his own. I wasn't going to help. When she saw I was firm, she could do nothing and had to give up. Joseph moved out. That night, after he left, I heard Renee crying in her room. I didn't go in to disturb her. Children have their own worlds, and their own emotions that they need to release in secret. The cooling-off period passed day by day. Joseph and I never contacted each other again. Until one day, after I finished a meeting, my silenced phone suddenly showed dozens of missed calls. All from Joseph. And several text messages. I'm downstairs at your company. Come find me when you see this. For Joseph to panic enough to come to my company. It must be something serious. I hurried downstairs, and as soon as I reached the lobby, I saw him pacing anxiously by the entrance. So I walked over. What's going on? He opened his mouth, but a colleague walking in greeted me, cutting him off. Hello, Director Rosie. Joseph froze instantly. He stared at me with wide eyes. When did you become a director? I answered calmly, last year. How come you never mentioned it? I lowered my gaze. A few years ago, when I was promoted to manager, I went home bubbling with excitement to tell him. He only said a faint congratulations, and that was it. I still remember when I was promoted to deputy team leader. He was even happier than I was. Insisted on celebrating. Joseph, who normally wouldn't spend more than 20 yuan on a meal, dragged me to order several hundred yuan worth of crayfish that night. But somewhere along the way, promotion stopped being celebrated. Our wedding anniversary became just a routine bouquet of flowers. Even our birthdays lost the simple phrase, "Happy birthday." We no longer went shopping or watched movies together on weekends. Even sitting at the same table for meals became quiet. We stopped asking about each other's work. Aside from our child, it felt like there was nothing left to talk about. Under circumstances like that, whether I mentioned my promotion or not, what difference would it make? Chapter 6. A strange fatigue rose in my chest. I didn't want to get entangled with Joseph, so I changed the subject. You came rushing to find me, what's the matter? Joseph hesitated. His Adam's apple bobbed. After a moment, he finally said. My mom just called me. Her birthday is this weekend. She wants the whole family to have a meal together. I raised an eyebrow. Just because his mother wanted a birthday dinner, he ran all the way to my company to find me. I didn't know what he was playing at. And I didn't care enough to ask. All right. I'll tell Renee. You can come pick her up then. I turned to leave, but Joseph grabbed my wrist again. I looked at him, then dropped my gaze to his hand clinging to me. Only then did he release me, looking embarrassed. What I meant was, you should come too. I frowned. What do you mean? Didn't you tell your mom about the divorce? Joseph said awkwardly, well, can we not tell her about the divorce yet? His voice was faint, almost pleading. She has high blood pressure. I'm afraid she won't be able to handle the shock. And when you asked for a divorce, you didn't think of that then? Joseph fell silent, lowering his head in embarrassment. I sighed softly. After Renee was born, I'd been overwhelmed with work, struggling to regain my footing in the company. Joseph was busy starting his business, trying to keep his rising company afloat. It was his mother who offered to come and help us with childcare, pulling us out of a crisis. It wasn't until the last couple of years that her health declined. Not wanting to burden us, she went to live in a nursing home. She had always treated me well. I respected her deeply. And I didn't want anything to happen to her. I'll agree just this once. Before you get remarried, you need to find a time and tell her clearly. Joseph let out a huge sigh of relief. Rosie, thank you. I only nodded slightly and said nothing more, then went back upstairs. On the weekend, I took Renee to the nursing home. Joseph was already waiting at the entrance. We went in together. My mother-in-law was delighted. She held Renee's hand and gave her a red envelope. Then she held my arm, asking about my well-being warmly. The room was filled with cheerful warmth. Until a soft, delicate voice broke it. "Mom, happy birthday." We all turned toward the door. A young woman stood there. She looked barely a year or two out of college. Young, pretty, vibrant. Joseph's face went pale with shock. He rushed forward to block her from entering. "Ruth, what are you doing here?" Renee suddenly tugged at my sleeve. Her face had turned extremely ugly. She leaned close, lowering her voice. "Mom, that's the young lady from Dad's car, the secretary." Chapter 7. I didn't even have time to feel shocked. Ruth, whom Joseph had tried to block at the door, pushed her way inside. She walked up to his mother with a bright smile. "Mom, let me introduce myself. I'm Ruth, Joseph's girlfriend." Joseph's mother froze. Joseph's face turned ashen. He grabbed Ruth's hand and started dragging her out. "Ruth, leave. Right now." Ruth was displeased. She yanked her hand free. "What are you doing? It's your mom's birthday. You brought your ex-wife but not me, and now you want to kick me out? I don't care. I'm staying." As she said that, she even shot me a fierce glare. Joseph's mother's expression darkened. She wasn't stupid. She could hear exactly what Ruth was implying. "Joseph, explain yourself. You and Rosie divorced?" Joseph panicked completely. Even his voice lost all strength, sounding thin and timid. "Mom, I'll explain later." Ruth cut him off instantly. "Why later? Just say it now." "Mom, they've already finished the divorce procedures. Once the cooling period ends, they'll get the final certificate." Joseph's mother's chest began rising and falling violently. She stared at Joseph. Then pointed a trembling finger at Ruth. Her voice cracked like a whip. "Is this the woman you've been keeping outside?" Joseph pressed his lips together, saying nothing. Ruth pouted unhappily. "Mom, don't say it like that. What do you mean, keeping someone outside? Joseph is divorced. I'm his legitimate girlfriend now. And they've been loveless for a long time. Joseph and I are the ones who truly love each other now." Smack. A loud slap landed hard on Joseph's face. Ruth let out a scream of fright. She hurried to touch Joseph's reddened cheek, distressed. Her soft, sugary voice was full of grievance. "Mom, how can you hit him?" But Joseph's mother didn't even glance at her. Her eyes were fixed on Joseph, filled with disappointment and hatred. "Useless. Of all things to learn, you learned from your damned father." Years ago, Joseph's father had cheated, abandoning his wife and son for another woman. He never even paid child support. Joseph's mother had struggled her whole life to raise him alone. The thing she hated most in this world was a home-wrecking woman, and a man who betrayed his family. Yet the son she raised with her own hands had turned into the very man who once hurt her the deepest. She couldn't accept it. Her vision went dark. And she collapsed backward. Chapter 8. We rushed her to the hospital in a panic. A heart attack triggered by high blood pressure. Fortunately, we got her there in time. After the emergency treatment, she was stabilized. I took Renee home first. I didn't go back to the hospital again. After Ruth's outburst, I finally understood. Joseph was willing to walk away with nothing just to divorce me. All because Ruth was pushing him hard, wanting a title. But I didn't expect Joseph's taste to be this terrible. I had gotten dragged into such a mess because of him. All I wanted was to stay far, far away. But Joseph's mother was so angry, she refused to eat and kicked him out. He had no choice but to come find me, hoping I would help persuade her. I couldn't stand seeing an elderly person suffer, so I went. Joseph's mother held my hand, her eyes full of tears. "Rosie, you're such a good woman, yet Joseph did something like this to hurt you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." My heart tightened painfully. She treated me like her own daughter. From her, I had felt a kind of motherly love I rarely felt growing up. She did nothing wrong. So why was she the one apologizing now? She wiped her tears. "Rosie, I won't stop you from divorcing. Joseph is no longer worthy of you. I hope you never look back." One day, find someone who deserves you. I was stunned and moved. But just then, the door was thrown open. Ruth stormed in and yanked me away from the bedside. How shameless can you be? You're already divorced, yet you're still haunting him. You're using the excuse of visiting his mom to rekindle things with Joseph, aren't you? I'm telling you, Joseph doesn't love you anymore. He hasn't loved you for a long time. Do you understand? My head throbbed from the commotion. Youth truly is something, their brains filled only with romance and jealousy. But didn't Joseph say he would keep an eye on Ruth and not let her come to the hospital? He was absolutely unreliable. Joseph's mother was a patient. I didn't want to argue in front of her. So I gently comforted her, Mom, I'll leave now. Please remember to eat and take care of yourself. Then I turned and left the room quickly. But Ruth trailed behind me relentlessly, nagging nonstop. I didn't intend to respond. Until she said, do yourself a favor and look in the mirror. You're a 40-year-old washed-up woman. Joseph feels sick just looking at you. I'm younger and prettier than you. What do you have to compete with me? I stopped walking. Turned around and looked at her as if she were an idiot. Do you think you'll never become a washed-up woman someday? Ruth lifted her chin proudly. Of course not. I couldn't help laughing. Then your life must be really short. Ruth stiffened. Her confidence shrank dramatically. What did you say? My tone remained calm. You said 40 is when a woman becomes washed up. But if you'll never reach that stage, that just means you won't live to 40, doesn't it? If not a short life, then what? Ruth was enraged. She raised her hand to hit me, but someone shouted, Stop. Chapter 9. Joseph quickly stepped forward and pulled Ruth away. What are you doing? Ruth looked utterly wronged. Tears the size of beans began falling instantly. She cursed me, said I'd die young. Joseph shielded Ruth behind him, without changing his expression. The meaning was obvious. He believed Ruth. But I wasn't about to let myself be silenced. You were the one who provoked me first. What you said back in the hospital room was already extremely rude. I held back because of his mom. And then you chased me out here, just to call me an old washed-up woman. I simply fought back. Joseph's face changed dramatically. You went to see Mom again? Ruth glared at him angrily. What? I can't visit her? Joseph, get this straight. I'm your girlfriend now. Am I that shameful to you? I can't even appear in front of your family? Joseph sighed heavily. That's not what I meant. Seeing the two about to argue again, I simply walked away. Just as I reached the hospital entrance, Joseph actually chased after me. Breathless, he said, Ruth just has a blunt personality. Don't take her words to heart. I apologize on her behalf. What a pity. I'm also someone who speaks her mind. You know perfectly well the difference between blunt and poorly raised. Joseph's lips trembled, but in the end, he said nothing. I reminded him, when the cooling period ends, remember to get the certificate. Then I brushed past him and left the hospital. Soon the cooling-off period arrived. Joseph and I agreed to meet at the Civil Affairs office. He arrived long after I did. I jumped in surprise when I saw him. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his chin, his face haggard. I didn't think too much of it. I assumed he had exhausted himself taking care of his mother. But just as we were about to go inside, Joseph grabbed my arm. Rosie, can we not get divorced? Chapter 10. My mind was full of questions. He was the one who asked for the divorce. His mother wasn't against it. And he already had Ruth by his side. Why was he suddenly going back on his word? What do you mean? You were the one who asked for a divorce. And now you say you don't want it? What do you take this marriage for? A joke? Joseph panicked. Even his speech became tangled. And no, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean that. His eyes suddenly turned red. All these years, I felt less and less like myself. Every day when I opened my eyes, it was either the company or home and the child. I felt like I didn't even have my own life anymore. Until Ruth came to the company. She was lively, passionate, open-hearted, full of endless energy. Watching her go hiking, surfing, diving, never caring about others' opinions, always being true to herself, I felt like I came alive too. I just gave in to temptation for a moment and got together with her. But Rosie, I regret it. I realized the one I love most is still you. I don't want to divorce you. He gripped my shoulders with both hands. His bloodshot eyes filled with remorse. But I pushed his hands off without hesitation. Then slapped him hard. Joseph froze. After all, ever since he brought up the divorce, I had stayed calm. This was the first time I hit him. My voice trembled as I spoke. You don't still love me. You just realized Ruth's spontaneity isn't as beautiful as you imagined. You're tired of her childish impulsiveness, so now you want to come back. You think you can play around outside, then come home once you're done. What are you, a child? And do you think you were the only one under pressure in this marriage? I paid the mortgage with you. I spent my weekends helping you drink with clients. When our child was sick, I stayed up all night. Yet you dare say you only gave in to temptation and that's why you were with Ruth. Do you think you were the only one who experienced temptation in this marriage? I did too. But I remembered I was a wife. I was a mother. I had boundaries. And I respected them. And you? You have no boundaries. No responsibility. No courage. Chapter 11. After letting everything out, I felt physically and mentally relieved. In this marriage, I contributed no less than Joseph did. When he decided to start his own business, I was also working desperately at the company to secure projects. Because I had to keep my job. If his business failed, at least I could still support the family. I also had to watch over our child's health and studies. On weekends, I accompanied him to business dinners and still squeezed out time to be with our child. I have to admit, the fiery passion of youth had long been worn away by our ordinary, busy years. When a colleague at the office brought me coffee every day. When I had menstrual cramps, he thoughtfully made brown sugar ginger tea for me. When we had endless things to talk about over meals, sometimes even leaning close to whisper. I felt my heart flutter more than once. I did long for the sweetness of ambiguity, but when I got home, I sobered up. This was the home we built step by step with so much effort. Even though there wasn't much love left between Joseph and me, I chose to use that small remaining bit of love to keep the family going. Even if the days were dull, boring, and monotonous. Just like the saying, people are naturally drawn to the new and tired of the old, staying loyal is a choice. So when the colleague brought me coffee again, I still accepted it, but transferred him the full amount. And told him that I already had coffee during breakfast with my husband, so he didn't need to buy it anymore. Unless it was work-related, I refused to have one-on-one meals with him. After work, I talked only about urgent tasks, never personal topics. I did my best to guard the home that always felt on the verge of collapsing. Until Joseph asked for a divorce, my last bit of love for him seemed to vanish instantly. And only then did I realize, after holding everything together for so long, I had been exhausted for a long time. Maybe I scared Joseph with my emotions. He didn't speak again for a long while. He simply stared at me, as if he was seeing a stranger. His gaze went back and forth over me repeatedly. I exhaled heavily. But the suffocation in my chest didn't ease. Even my voice sounded muffled. Joseph, once you let the arrow fly, it doesn't come back. This marriage is ending today, whether you want it or not. Chapter 12. Joseph ended up crying as he walked out. I only felt embarrassed for him. Didn't even want to admit he was my ex-husband. I strode to the parking garage, got into my car, and left. After the divorce, without having to force myself to maintain a dead marriage, I suddenly had so much more energy. Work progressed smoothly. My efficiency soared, and I barely had to work overtime anymore. My bonuses also increased. After summer vacation, Renee entered middle school. I had time to help her adapt to her new environment little by little. Joseph occasionally came to visit Renee and take her out. Renee told me that after the divorce, Joseph still insisted on breaking up with Ruth. After half a year of back and forth, they finally ended it for good. I didn't feel much when I heard it. It was like listening to gossip about a neighbor. But Joseph came to the house more and more often. He always said he came for Renee. But every time, he brought me gifts and flowers. Sometimes he used the excuse of taking Renee to a movie and invited me along. 20 years had passed. He was still using the same methods he once used to pursue me. Too bad, I was no longer the girl from 20 years ago. I thought Joseph would give up eventually. But unexpectedly, he persisted for 2 whole years. And only chased more aggressively. Even Renee got annoyed. To the point she worried I might actually go back to Joseph. She nervously asked, "Mom, you're not going to get back together with Dad, right?" I was playing Sudoku on my tablet. I answered casually, "No." Renee visibly relaxed. "Good. Then Oscar still has hope." I frowned. "Oscar?" Renee excitedly plopped down beside me. "Yes. Mom. Oscar is amazing, funny, charming, knowledgeable. He'd be the perfect husband." As she spoke, she bumped my shoulder and wiggled her eyebrows at me. I looked at her helplessly. "You just want him to be your dad, don't you?" Having her thoughts exposed, Renee stuck out her tongue mischievously. "Well, I want to be real sisters with Anita. And I want a new dad too." I couldn't help laughing and crying at the same time. Truly, people always crave the new and resent the old. But when I thought of Oscar, I suddenly put down my tablet, lost in thought. Chapter 13. I met Oscar during the first parent-teacher meeting in middle school. His daughter, Anita, was Renee's first desk mate after entering middle school. Naturally, during the meeting, he and I sat together as well. At first, seeing him in a formal suit with a serious expression, I thought he was one of those rigid, old-fashioned types. But once he took the initiative to talk to me, I realized he was witty and graceful in manner, nothing like a stiff traditionalist. After learning we were both single parents. And seeing how well Anita and Renee got along, becoming inseparable like best friends, Oscar and I gradually interacted more too. When either of us was busy, the other would help pick up the kids. We celebrated birthdays together. We took the kids out to play. But every time, we only talked about the children, never about anything else. Until that day, after the 4 of us watched a musical and went to a restaurant for dinner. Anita and Renee ran off to try a newly opened escape room, leaving us alone at the table. That was the first time we talked not about the kids, but about ourselves. He liked Sudoku just as much as I did. He enjoyed mystery movies and novels, especially Agatha Christie. We talked about so many things, I don't remember everything clearly. I only remember he made me laugh several times, so hard my waist hurt from bending over. When Anita and Renee returned, we had gone from sitting face to face to sitting side by side, leaning close as we chatted. Later I learned Anita and Renee had planned it. They were trying to matchmake us. They wanted to be real sisters. The kind recorded on the household registration. But neither Oscar nor I seemed to reject their matchmaking. Instead, we slowly slipped into a relationship that was more than friends but not yet lovers. The doorbell suddenly rang. My thoughts were interrupted. Renee muttered, "Who comes at this hour?" She went to open the door. Seeing Joseph, her tone carried a hint of barely detectable annoyance. "Dad. Why are you here so late?" Joseph was holding a bag. He lifted it with a proud smile as if presenting a prize. "Didn't you say last time you wanted cake from this shop? I went to buy it for you." Renee pouted. "Who eats cake this late? I'll get fat." Joseph's smile froze. A flicker of disappointment appeared in his eyes. The awkward silence stretched. I had no choice but to step in and ease the tension. "Your dad brought it after work. You should thank him." Renee pursed her lips. Then finally said, "Thank you, Dad." I took the cake from him and handed it to Renee. "Put it in the fridge. We'll eat it tomorrow." Soon, only Joseph and I were standing at the door. I was about to use the excuse that it was late and tell him to go home, I didn't want him coming in. But he said he wanted to talk to me. So we walked down to the residential courtyard together. Halfway there, he suddenly stopped walking. "Renee has been mentioning someone called Oscar lately. Is he, someone who's pursuing you?" Chapter 14. Joseph's burning gaze stayed fixed on me. There was a hint of brokenness in his eyes. I did not answer him directly. He's the father of Renee's good friend. But Joseph refused to let it go. "Is he pursuing you?" Only then did it hit me. So that's why he came over with cake today. He always found excuses to bother me in the name of visiting Renee. We were in a public place, so I didn't want to start a fight. But I still responded bluntly, "How is that any of your business?" I didn't expect Joseph to get anxious. "What do you mean it's none of my business? You're looking for a stepfather for Renee? Rosie, these past 2 years, you've seen everything I've done, haven't you? I really regret it. I really want to win you back. I want to bring our family back together. Instead of giving Renee a stepfather, why don't we remarry? After all, I'm Renee's biological father. No other man will ever love her more than I do. Us being together is what's truly best for her." I stared at his anxious face. My irritation shot straight to my scalp. "Since you claim to care so much about your daughter, let me ask you, do you even know what she likes?" Confusion washed over Joseph's face. He didn't speak for a long time. I almost rolled my eyes into the sky. Right now, Renee's favorite thing is puzzles. She loves watching musicals. And she adores escape rooms. But look at where you take her every time. If it's not an amusement park, it's the movie theater. And the gifts you bring, stuffed dolls, and more stuffed dolls. But she's grown up. She's not a 3-year-old anymore. She has her own unique interests. You say no one loves her more than you do. Yet you don't even know what she likes. How exactly are you planning to love her?" Joseph stared blankly. Still, he refused to give up. Trying to defend himself, "That's only because we're living separately right now. If we lived together again, I would definitely do better." His eyes reddened. He clutched my hand tightly, begging in a low, humbled voice, "Rosie, give me one more chance. I really want to make things right. As for Renee, trust me, only I, her biological father, would treat her well. I'd never hurt her." The breeze brushed past the corners of my lips. And even my laugh carried a layer of icy contempt. "Never hurt her? But the moment you picked her up from school with Ruth, letting that woman cling all over you right in front of her, you had already hurt her." Joseph froze. The hand holding mine loosened immediately. Chapter 15. This was the reason I could never forgive Joseph. It was fine if he hurt me or made me sad. But he could not make my child suffer. After our divorce, I often saw Renee secretly crying in her room. Because she saw Joseph and Ruth together and didn't know how to tell me. Even after she confessed it to me, she still carried a heavy emotional burden. She felt she helped Joseph hurt me and owed me an apology. It took me a long time to convince her to let go of that weight. I suddenly thought of Oscar again. Renee and Anita loved escape rooms. Oscar spent 3 nights studying walkthroughs. Then took them to play. He also collected all kinds of interesting puzzles and gifted them to Renee. He even kept an eye on touring musicals and fought for tickets for both girls. Oscar truly did better at being a father than Joseph ever did. Maybe, as Renee said, he was even suitable as a husband. I snapped out of my thoughts. And saw Joseph burning with shame and anger. Even more agitated than before, eyes bloodshot. "Then can you guarantee that he won't hurt her? Rosie, you can't be this selfish. Just because you're happy, you can't rush to give her a stepfather." I laughed. Who did he think he was? Trying to control me. That's still better than you rushing to give her a stepmother before we were even divorced. Joseph quickly looked away, his face full of embarrassment. My patience had run out. "Joseph, everything that needed to be said was already said 2 years ago when we divorced. If you want to visit your child or care about her, I will never stop you. But if you want to use her as an excuse to get back together with me, then from now on, you're not welcome in my home. And my private life isn't something you get to comment on." I didn't spare him a single extra glance and turned to leave. Even when I faintly heard him choke back a sob, I didn't look back. When I reached the bottom of my building, I received a message from Oscar. "Rosie, Anita, and I are planning a trip to the beach. We'd like to invite you and Renee. Are you free tomorrow?" Right after that, a message popped up from Anita. "Auntie, you must come tomorrow. Dad has something he wants to tell you." I laughed out loud. How coincidental. I also had something I wanted to tell Oscar. I replied to Oscar, "Sure, See you tomorrow. Then replied to Anita, I'll be there tomorrow. I looked up. The moon was full and bright. It was time. Time to try someone new.